Welcome back. In today's episode, we continue with the conversation with Tanner Gers. Tanner shares in this episode what you can do to overcome your biggest weaknesses. And one of my favorite comments, if you see a pile of poop on the ground, guess what? There just might be a pony nearby. There will be adult language used throughout this episode, so please take caution if young kids are around.
Welcome to this edition of Peak Performers Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Thor Conklin here. We give you the tricks, the tips, the tools, the strategy, the technology, and the psychology peak performers use in order to get more done and execute at the highest level. If you know what to do but struggle with getting it all done, or simply want to raise your game to the next level, this podcast is for you. Sit back and enjoy. What's some of the best advice you've ever received, either in athletics or in business or in life?
Some of the best advice that I've received was from Dr. Jim Afremow, and my mentor. But Dr. Jim Afremow told me, he said, Tanner, any one given moment or experience or outcome does not define you, your potential. It doesn't define your potential, and it doesn't define you as a human being. And, do we intend to create great moments? Absolutely. But if we are focused on the outcome, we will never create great outcomes. And regardless of what the outcome is, the outcome does not reflect who you are as a person.
Yeah, so true. And so many people get wrapped up in defining themselves by what's occurred. I trip sometimes. I'm not a very clumsy person, but I've tripped. I don't go around saying I'm a tripper.
Right.
Why go around so you failed at something? Big deal. Why are you a failure? No, you just happen to fail at something. First fail of the day. Bring on another one.
I love that first fail of the day.
Yeah, I stole that. I forget who it was. I wish I could give him credit. And they had a daughter that spilled her milk in the morning, and he was teaching her to kind of get past failure. And she's like, "First spill of the day."
Wow.
Yeah,
that is powerful.
That's it. Move on.
I love that.
So that was the best. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say the other one that was really impactful for me, and just kind of gets back to failure or difficulty or adversity, is my mentor told me, this big pile of shit on the ground means that there's a pony around here somewhere. And so, that's just thinking about that. Yeah, it's so crazy, Thor. So, my entrepreneurial endeavors, that is a huge component of my life. Being an athlete is a huge component of my life. And another component of my life is that, like you, my mission is about helping other people live better lives and live their dreams. And I do that regardless of their circumstance, that you can create a great life regardless of circumstance. And so I'm really active about pulling down the barriers for people and advocacy for the blind. So one of the things that I do, that I spend a pretty good amount of time on, is with a company called Linkages Experience. And they help make online job board accessibility possible. Most job boards aren't accessible. And so when I go in to apply for a job, I go into a place, they'll refer me online. And so I go online, but I can't actually apply for the job because their job board isn't accessible. So what do? So I contact their human resources department, or I look for a phone number or an email or something, and I have to say, hey, I'm disabled and I can't fill out your job application. How can I achieve gainful employment with you? And how debilitating is that? And when you, as a disabled person who may be already coming to the table as with a societal perception of less than, of second or third class, and you're coming to this potential employer with a problem. Hey, I can't even apply for your job. Will you hire me? I'm trying to take that barrier down and really make job board accessibility, a priority for companies so that they can understand how hiring a disabled veteran, how hiring a disabled employee could be the game changer for their business, not in terms of just filling that role as that position that the candidate feels, but also to the impact that it has on a cultural level, at an enterprise level, for your other employees to see how awesome and motivating it is for this person with a disability. So I give that to say it's been consuming me so much, right? I'm so driven and passionate about this that it's carrying over into other areas of my life. And when I took my quote unquote vacation and went to go play blind baseball for a week at the Blind Baseball World Series. This year it was in Ames, Iowa, and we were right across the street from the football field there. I was not the same player. Like I still, other people like, man, you had a really great series. You did so well. And for me, it was my worst series in a while, like 5 years. And, I was letting my business impact my life. And I was growing, that big piece of shit on the ground was me not performing well in something that I love so much. And the pony was that understanding how to create barriers in my life between work, passion, purpose, mission, and downtime. And so that's one of the things that I'm working on in my business right now that I'm really excited about is drawing clear lines in the sand so that when I'm doing the thing that I love, whether that's my family or playing blind baseball or running track and field, or I'm doing my podcast or I'm doing Linkage's experience and helping blind people find gainful employment, that I can show up in the best way possible no matter where I'm at in my day or where I'm at in my week or where I'm at in focusing on those various areas in my life.
Yeah, so many of my clients suffer with that. And so did I for a long, long time. And then I just decided that the most important thing going on right now is right now.
Yes.
Whoever I'm with. I mean, could you imagine, you see it all the time. You go out to a restaurant and you've got a couple there and all they're doing is just sitting there and texting back and forth.
Right.
And they're not paying any attention to the person in front of you. Could you imagine, going somewhere and someone saying something and asking you a question and you just pulling out a phone and just ignoring them? I mean, that's basically what you're doing.
Right.
It's rampant nowadays. So that was some of the best advice. What's some of the worst advice?
That's a really great question. Some of the worst advice is listening, advice from others who are coming from a place of lack, from a place of hopelessness, and from a place of misery. So that's the worst advice that I get. And depending on how we subject ourselves to other people, that advice you could be getting right now all the time. So what I mean by that is, I had to cut out a lot of people in my life. When I came to that moment and I started cutting people away, it was because of that terrible advice that I was getting all the time. It may be a comment, it may be a question, but a rhetorical question. It may be this phrase that I heard a lot that I don't hear as much anymore because of the decisions I've made about who I hang out with. But you're an overachiever. I hate that phrase. And, when people say like, oh, I tried that diet, it doesn't work. Yeah, you won't do that. It's too tough. Yeah, I tried that and it's not going to happen. Good luck. Thank God it's Friday. Advice like that, phrases like that, comments like that, those are the typical types of bad advice that I've ever received.
I don't know if I'm going to get an answer to this because I don't know if there is anything, but I have to ask. What have you been afraid to try?
What have I been afraid to try? I think that I used to be afraid of trying to talk to girls, and now that's not the case. I'm married, but I think it's relevant to just talking with people, engaging in conversation. I used to be really afraid to do that, but now I'm no longer afraid of that, and it's just because I conditioned myself, I weathered myself and I forced myself to be in those situations and just ask for help. Of course, that was induced by my disability and me being like lost in the street, and I heard somebody walking by, and I had to reach out for help. I had to engage in conversation. I had to grab someone's attention.
Right.
So that's been nice, but I think that I don't think that I'm ever afraid to try anything that's not going to risk or make my physical well-being less. Anything that might hurt me, I might be a little afraid to do, but I'm never really afraid to put myself out there.
That's obvious. What do you say to the people that, come to you and go, well, I'm afraid to try that, or I don't know if I can do this, how do you deal with that? I think I'd just go nuts. I'm like, what, are you kidding me? Look what I'm doing. Why would you say that?
Well, we all know it's mental. And so I get them to start talking it out by just asking them why. Why are you afraid of that? And they'll say a reason. And I'm like, well, why? Like, why does that matter? And eventually they, if they are operating with a logical mind of average intelligence or greater, then they can eventually deduce that by me questioning why, they can eventually deduce that there is no reason.
Yeah, it's just a story.
It's a story.
Yeah, based in fear.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, fear. So there's either love or there's fear. Some people say there's love and hate, but they don't see what's behind that hate, and what's behind it is fear.
Yeah.
So hate is a derivation of fear. So you either love to do something or you're afraid of it.
Yeah. What's your biggest weakness?
Probably fear. Not probably. It is fear.
Yeah. Join the human race.
Right. I'm going to say my biggest weakness is fear. I think that
it's really interesting. I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's really interesting because I've asked that question a bunch, and no one's ever answered it that way. And I think not only is that the best answer, that is the answer.
Yeah, I know it is. I mean, it's what's exciting is that I know that it is, right? And
yes. And now so do our listeners.
Right.
Thank you.
And which is important, for everyone to know, because whether, if you're listening to this podcast right now and there's something in your life that you know that you need to do, the reason you haven't done it is fear. And the fear is the outcome, right? You can do it. Like, there's nothing stopping you from physically doing it. You just have a fear around it, and the fear is around the outcome. You don't want to be embarrassed. You don't want it to not work out. And the worst fear is that you do nothing. That's what your fear should be, is that you do nothing. Because if you do nothing, it's the worst situation possible, because the exact same thing happens as if you fail. You do nothing or you fail, and it's the same outcome. The only way we can do something different is if we take action, and we keep taking action. Because if it's either a 1 or a 0, it's either yes or it's no, it's either succeed or it's fail, then how many times do we need to have a 0, a fail, before we succeed? And so the only difference there is action. Oh, man, I'm firing myself up.
I know. I love it. I mean, what a great answer. And it's funny because we all know that answer, right? It's fear. But I love how you just answered it to that question. I mean, that is our biggest weakness of everybody. Fear is the only thing that holds us back. Yeah. Well done.
Thank you.
Who holds you accountable?
I need more accountability in my life, Thor, because it's so important, and I think that accountability can help us get beyond fear, right? So if fear is the biggest weakness, accountability can help you get over your biggest weakness. I mean, man, you're making huge progress in any way that you apply this framework of accountability, helping you overcome fear. So, I mean, my mastermind holds me accountable, and my wife holds me accountable, and my brother holds me accountable. And it's like, well, whoa, you do have accountability in your life. Socially, I hold myself accountable. But even with those 4 layers of accountability, my mom, a 5th layer, holds me accountable. Even with those 5 layers, that's still not enough. For some, it may be.
Yeah.
But until you've executed everything that you intend to execute, then you don't have enough accountability.
Yeah. And you know what? You just exposed a really good use of fear. And that is using fear of the accountability group, fear of your mother being disappointed or whatever you associate. The reason you're stepping up in an accountability situation is you don't want to look bad. You want to follow through on your word. So there's fear at play here, and this is where you use fear effectively.
Exactly. Yeah, there's always the other side to the coin, right? So it's like, oh, fear's this big negative thing. But, just like as you explained and illustrated, fear can be a great thing.
Use it. Don't let it use you.
That's right. And use it as a navigation mechanism. Yeah. If you're afraid to do something, it's probably a pretty good reason that you should move towards it.
Yeah, and look, fear is also a useful tool from keeping us from getting killed. You talked about throwing the javelin. Well, that's cool. Just don't be a javelin catcher.
That's right.
Yeah, you should be fearful of that. That's stupid.
I didn't make the team in javelin catch.
Good.
I tried out.
If you had the ability to go back and talk to Tanner as a 13-year-old, what advice would you give him?
I knew the answer to this question by the time you said the second and the half of the third word. The advice would be make plans like an adult and believe in them like a child. And that is a Jim Rohn quote that when I heard it for the first time, which wasn't that long ago, maybe 700 days ago, when I heard that for the first time, I realized that this was the foundation for achievement. Meaning that I want you guys to think about, regardless of, the religion, everybody's aware of Christianity, some, form of it, and Santa Claus, right? And Christmas. And maybe even if you aren't Christian, you still celebrate Christmas. But everybody is familiar with Christmas, at least to some degree here, probably listening to this podcast. And kids around Christmas believe in Santa. They just believe in Santa. They change their behavior around it. They're writing things down because of it. They're thinking about it all the time. They're imagining these gifts that are going to happen Christmas morning, that he's going to eat the cookies and drink the milk, and that he's coming down the chimney. And even if that I don't have a chimney, he's going to come through the window or the door or somehow. And we're never even going to wake up. And then all these gifts are going to be there. And it's just going to be this amazing thing. I'm so excited for Christmas. I'm going to hang my stocking up. We've got the tree decorated. It's going to be amazing. And that's the kind of belief that can make anything happen.
Powerful. I like that.
Mm-hmm. So make plans like an adult. You better get after those plans like a child.
Great advice. Every peak performer that has ever lived or will live does one thing extremely well. They know how to take their ideas and execute on them. Ideas and knowledge are not power, but the ability to execute on them, that is real power. If you consider yourself a peak performer and really want to take your game to the next level and truly master the science of execution, I would like to send you some information about our upcoming event, Business Execution Summit. Simply take your phone and text the word BE Summit, one word, to 41411. And I'll send you some additional information on how to master the most important skill you will ever acquire for your life or your business. That concludes part 2 of our interview with Tanner Gers. Please stay tuned later this week for the conclusion, part 3. Thank you so much for listening today. I really do appreciate your time, and I hope you found today's show valuable. If you would like to receive these shows automatically to your phone or to your computer, simply go to iTunes and subscribe. After listening to several of the shows, if you're so inclined, please leave us a 5-star rating, as this helps us reach additional people and spread the message. If you're truly committed to taking your life to the next level and doing whatever it takes to become a peak performer, but something's holding you back, something is blocking your way, and you just can't seem to figure out what it is, send me an email to info@thorconklin.com, and I'd be more than happy to get on the phone with you. We'll schedule a 15-minute discovery call. No obligation, no cost. I absolutely love to hear from the listeners, and if there's something I can do to help, I'd be more than happy to do that. Also, if you found something of great interest in today's show and you want to share that with your friends and family, simply go to my Facebook page, Thor Conklin, click on the episode, hit the share button, and share it on your page. You can follow me at Twitter at Thor Conklin. The website is thorconklin.com. We're constantly adding new free resources, discussing additional tricks, tips, tools, and strategies on how to be a peak performer. Remember, I try to keep these episodes short so you can listen to them during dot time, doing other things, commuting, driving, walking, working out. Decide to be a peak performer in all that you do. And until tomorrow, have an absolutely amazing day.